Hello, this is Kelly Powell, and I'm an advisor at the South Plains College Reese campus. And today we're going to be talking to you about transfer tips to get you ready to look forward to transferring to another institution. So, this is going to be our presentation. We're glad that you can make it today. There we go. Try to get my slide to advance. All right. So, the overall theme when you're talking about transfer is pre-planning, okay? That's going to be the general theme throughout the entire presentation. So, first of all, where you start really matters. Looking at some research, the citation is down at the bottom of the screen. Where you start matters. 80% of students that transfer out of for-profit colleges lost all credits when they jumped into a public or a private nonprofit school. Typically, public community college transfer students only lost 21% of credits when they transferred to public universities, or 33% of transfer credits when they transferred to private colleges. So they lost significantly less credits. So congratulations on choosing SPC because you are starting off at a public community college, and so you're less likely to lose credits. You're also much less likely to lose credits if you work with an advisor. Okay? So the main thing is start with a plan from the very first day to save money. Lost credits equal lost dollars. The best way to ensure that your credits transfer is to start with a plan for the school and the major that you want to transfer to. If you don't know what major you want, you start with core classes. Now, core has a very specific meaning in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has determined that core classes are a specific set of classes, 42 hours, that will transfer to all state schools in the state of Texas. Now, if you go private or if you go out of state, that core loses its meaning to a certain extent. So you need to realize if you go to Oklahoma, a core class in the state of Texas is Texas government. If you go to Oklahoma, they don't care about Texas government, so it's not core there, okay? Your SPC advisors can guide you, but you must confirm your information with the advisor at your target school in your major. And you're going to hear me say that over and over again. The other thing is you need to go to the right people for the right information. Friends and family members always have good intentions, but they may not have the right information, and they may not have the most current information, especially. So even though someone may have gone through the exact program that you want to go through, information changes. Their information may not be current. Requirements change, especially for medical areas like nursing. So it's important that you work with an SPC advisor. And we have two different types of advisors here. Like I'm an advisor at the Reese campus, but I'm a general advisor. So I advise students when they start in their programs. I advise welding, I advise engineering, pre-med, history, psychology, English. I get you started, okay? But then our goal is to connect you with a faculty advisor in your field. The faculty advisors are specialists. So I have to know a wide breadth of information in a lot of different majors. Your faculty advisors, they're specialists, so they know that area, but they know a lot more depth. So eventually, our goal is to transition you to your faculty advisors. But ultimately, you also need to confirm the information with an advisor in your major at your target institution. So I can tell you from the best of my knowledge, based on training that I've received, transfer information for Texas Tech University. But I am not Texas Tech University. I don't work for Texas Tech University. You need to confirm that with the institution that you plan to go to. Otherwise, this is going to be you, okay? So we don't want to end up in this situation. Your education is your education. You need to be proactive. You need to be empowered. You need to be the one confirming all your information. You need to know the difference between technical classes and transferable classes. So South Plains College is a community college. We have 2 tracks, okay? We have technical, which is preparing people for job force entry, and we have academic transferable, okay? And sometimes they overlap and mix and match, and it can be kind of confusing. Now, obviously, welding is a technical program, pretty self-explanatory, but we do have some programs that kind of sound the same. So let's look at a sample. We'll look at these 2 classes, accounting and accounting. Specifically, we're going to use business as an example. So these are 2 degree plans, obviously, from South Plains College, both for business. I do want to point out these are kind of cropped, so this is not the entire degree plan. We have business administration, we have business. Okay. AAS, I'm going to specifically look at this. Anytime you see AAS, this is an Associate of Applied Science, okay? An Associate of Applied Science. The applied tells you that this is a technical program. This is a program that prepares people for job force entry, okay? Typically, that means that the majority of these classes do not transfer to a 4-year university, okay? If you look at this one, transfer guide. So transfer guide means that this prepares you for transfer to state schools in Texas. Okay. Now, when you look at them, you're going to see classes look very different. Okay. This is because this gives you the core in Texas: English, history, math, science, government. Okay. You're kind of like, where's the business? Well, we have accounting, economics, business speech, business stats. When you look at this one, it's a lot of business principles, human relations, business elective, supervision, marketing. Again, preparing you for job force entry. Not all of these classes will transfer to a 4-year institution. These classes are designed to transfer to business administration programs in the state of Texas. So this is where working with an advisor is very important so that we can make sure you're on the right track. And you have to communicate with us. My goal is to transfer to, so that I can say, if I see that this is the plan that you're on and you tell me you want to transfer, I'm going to be like, you probably need to be over here. Okay. 2 tracks. Timeline for transfer applications, okay? Way earlier than you probably think, okay? You cannot apply in August to start school in the fall. Not a good idea. And ultimately, your scholarship deadlines right here. So there's application deadlines and there's scholarship deadlines. Really, your scholarship deadlines are your application deadlines. They are always going to be before your application deadlines. So when you're looking at transfer, you want to look at, of course, application deadlines, but you really want to look at scholarship deadlines because they're always going to be earlier. You also need to look at the credits that you're taking. Do they have to be completed before you apply, or do they have to be completed before you enroll? Okay, some schools, you have to have hours completed before the application. In general, you need to apply either the fall or the very beginning of the spring prior to the fall that you want to enroll. So we're thinking about almost a year ahead, okay? A full semester to a year ahead. And again, that varies by school. The larger and more competitive the school, the farther in advance that you have to apply. The smaller the school, typically you don't have to apply as far in advance. Okay, so here's a little transfer timeline, okay? This is in general. Obviously, you need to adapt this to your school, and this is a pretty aggressive timeline. So, you could be a little more delayed than this, but this is, the ideal perfect world timeline. In the fall, prior to the fall that you want to go. So again, we're talking year ahead. You need to be reviewing your scholarship deadlines for your schools, if there's more than one, especially, because we're going to be developing a plan, right? So you're going to be like, okay, I want to go, let's say, to Tech. And when is the tech scholarship deadline? I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to figure out my application deadline. I'm going to have maybe a cover sheet for this school that says this is their scholarship deadline, this is the application deadline. I have to get transcripts sent. This is all the checklist that I need for this school. I'm going to confirm my deadlines with an advisor at that target school. In particular, because there are university deadlines, and then is there a deadline for that particular major or department that may be earlier? I'm going to complete my FAFSA October 1 prior to the fall I want to go. So like back in the day when I was in school, you did your FAFSA in the spring prior to the fall. Well, they have changed that. You can actually do your FAFSA as early as October 1 prior to the fall. When you do your FAFSA, you want to list all schools that you may attend. So if I was, again, going maybe to West Texas A&M, I would list West Texas A&M on that FAFSA. I would probably still list South Plains on the off chance that what happens if I don't get to go in the fall like I'm planning, and I may end up still being at South Plains. You can list up to 10 schools on the FAFSA. So that way those schools get your information, and if your number one school doesn't work out, you can go to your backup school. You need to send official transcripts by the deadline, even if you're continuing coursework, because they need to see your current grades to determine admissions. Spring, you're going to complete your scholarship applications, okay, by the deadlines. You need to follow up on your financial aid requirements. Different schools have different requirements, so they may ask for different materials. You need to send official sealed transcripts at the end of spring so that they have those final grades. You need to review your financial aid award letters, okay? In the summer, if you're taking summer classes, don't forget to send additional transcripts. Yeah, you send them a spring transcript, but if you have summer classes, you need to send another transcript so that they have those grades. You need to complete summer orientation. A lot of schools have mandatory orientation. Okay, so you have to check on that. Not everybody has it, but some schools do. You need to meet with an advisor, get registered, continue to check that financial aid status. I used to work with high school students, and I used to tell them financial aid is not done until tuition is paid, because you never know when they're going to come up with, I need an additional form, additional piece of paperwork, or something of that nature, okay? Okay. So let's see if I can get my slide to advance. Okay, there we go. So these are some sample deadlines for fall enrollment for just a couple of colleges that are the kind of most common ones people ask about. Legal disclaimer, you need to double check these deadlines yourself. These were current when I looked them up in October of 2020. Okay, these were deadlines for fall of 21. So I looked them up in October, double check them yourself. And again, for these particular schools. This is what I'm talking about. Application deadline June, scholarship deadline March. Okay, application deadline August, which you would never wait that late. Scholarship deadline, priority deadline February 1. So sometimes you're going to see priority deadlines and just hard deadlines. You have to kind of double check with the school to see what that looks like. You would never ever wait until August to apply. This is basically, last minute. This is the absolute latest that they'll take it. Okay. Couple things over here. Texas Tech has a program called Red Raider Guarantee. If your family income is at a certain level or below, they guarantee that they will cover the cost of tuition and fees with grants and scholarships. It's an excellent program if you qualify, but January 15th, your financial aid file has to be complete, not just your FAFSA, the whole file. FAFSA, verification, all forms turned in, the whole enchilada has to be complete. So you have to be on the ball for this, okay? Now, West Texas A&M has something similar called the Buff Promise, I believe. A&M has the Aggie Promise. North Texas has the Emerald Eagle program. There's a lot of promise programs or guaranteed programs that are like that. They're kind of separate from scholarship. You need to check into that. But you always need to be watching all these deadlines: scholarship, FAFSA, transfer. Always need to watch those, okay? Never wait until the application deadline. I think we kind of already beat that to death, okay? Scholarship money will have already been depleted. The other thing is, if you did wait until that August deadline, like maybe you have a rich grandpa who's paying for school. Good for you. I'm excited for you. But if that's not the case, then, or if that is the case, and you don't need to worry about the money, you still need to worry about transfer credit evaluation. So if you're applying in August, there is no time for them to evaluate your transfer credit evaluation prior to registration, for the most part. Because if you turn your stuff in August and then you're registering for school August 20 something, there's no time for that to have been evaluated. For most schools, they have thousands of applications, thousands of transcripts. So if you're trying to take calculus, but the prereqs are algebra and trig that you took here at South Plains, how are they going to know that you have that credit so that you can register for calculus? So it's not just money, it's also your transcripts have to be entered. They have to be evaluated. There's a process to all of this. So that's why we don't want to wait late. Also, keep in mind, most schools will not work FAFSA or scholarship until you have applied. So sometimes people are like, well, I'm not going to do my application until I know how much money I'm going to get. Well, they may not work that file until your application is in the system. Okay, so some general GPA requirements for guaranteed admissions, and this is where we need to talk about your grades count from day one, okay? So again, legal disclaimer, this was current when I looked it up in October of 2020. This is going to change, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. So when we talk guaranteed transfer, this is if you have A, B, and C, you're getting in, okay? Guaranteed. So for tech, if you have 12 hours and a 2.5, you're guaranteed acceptance to Texas Tech. However, certain majors listed here require higher GPAs. So you might get into Texas Tech University, but you're not going to get into the School of Business with the 2.5. Okay? A lot of other schools have majors that have higher requirements, so you have to watch for that. Also, this is guaranteed. So if you have a 2.4, it doesn't mean you won't get into tech. It just means you're not guaranteed transfer admissions. There's also a thing called admissions review. So if you don't have these exact numbers, you still could get in, but they're going to require additional things like letters of recommendation, resumes, essays. It depends on the school. And they will do a holistic review looking at all of those things, and you might be admitted probationally. And so that kind of depends based on the school. Okay, let's talk about fall 2021 and how things are going to be a little different. So COVID happened. So fall 2021 admissions is not going to be the same for fall 2022, 2023, 2024. Okay, so some of those numbers that you saw in that previous slide may change. So be very careful. We don't want to get lazy with our grades, okay? Look at this number. So some colleges in Texas had a 25% decrease in enrollment in fall of 2020 because of COVID. That's a 25% decrease in revenue for these colleges. So they are trying to increase enrollment in 2021. How do we increase enrollment? We relax admission requirements, maybe. I'm not saying all colleges are doing this, but maybe. Maybe we reduce that GPA requirement so that we can increase enrollment because we lost 25% of our revenue. Okay? So, long-term thinking, don't plan on the fall 2021 admission requirements to be the case in future years, okay? So we can't be lazy. Just because that GPA requirement is in place now doesn't mean that it's going to be the case in the future. So just because your friend gets into college with a 2.2 GPA doesn't mean that you will 2 to 3 years down the road, because that's going to change. So Be proactive, keep those grades up. You want scholarship money. You don't want to slack just because you think, oh, well, my friend got in with a low GPA. We don't want to do that, okay? Little legal disclaimer about the deadlines again. Remember, deadlines change every year, so keep that in mind, especially for your medical programs, okay? So also, Texas legislature doesn't conclude typically until mid-June. So sometimes Texas legislature changes things for colleges, and we have to change things. So keep that in mind as well. The moral of the story is never put your future in somebody else's hands. So we are here to help guide you, and we're a resource and we're a tool, but you always want to be the one that is in full control of your educational decisions. You want to get that information, confirm that information. We are here to lead you in the right direction, but you want to always confirm it with the source. Always remember it's a process, okay? So each school has slightly different requirements for admissions. They may require an essay. Another school may not require an essay. One school may require a resume. Another school may not require a resume. Some majors require different requirements, okay? So you have to kind of remember that. One thing about essays and resumes and all that, keep all that stuff saved. If you write an essay for one school or an essay for one scholarship, save it. Upload it to the cloud. Save that information. Don't ever submit the exact same essay for another thing. You always want to revamp it and tweak it. We don't want to be sending an essay to UT that talks about how it's been your lifelong dream to go to tech, right? That's happened. Don't do that. So you always want to save it, but you always want to save it because you might be applying for a scholarship one day and maybe you find out about it 24 hours before it's due. And you're like, wait a minute, I've written an essay similar to this one before. Let me pull it out. Let me revamp it. Let me dust it off, make it new again. But I have the bones. I have the bare bones there that I can refresh, but you always want to refresh it. Okay? It's your responsibility to follow up and make sure items were received. Okay? So when you're applying to a school that has 30,000 students, they don't have time to email you individually and be like, sweetie, we didn't get one of the 5 transfer scholar transcripts that you say you went to. So you need to make sure that those things are being received. Okay. Let's talk about name changes. And I'm going to use this example because I know someone who works at TTU Health Science Center in the nursing school of nursing. If your name has changed for whatever reason, marriage, divorce, you just didn't like your name and you changed it, you need to be proactive. If you keep getting an email from them that says, we don't have your transcript from ABC school, and you're like, I sent it, we still don't have it. I sent it, we still don't have it. I sent it. You might want to remember that maybe 10 years ago, your name was Kelly Powell, and now it's Kelly Sharp, or vice versa. Because sometimes in the system, if that doesn't match, and on your application, your name is this, and this transcript is a different name, it may not match. And so if you keep getting a notice that says, we don't have something, it might behoove you to be proactive and call somebody and say, my name used to be this. Do you have a transcript with this name and this date of birth? Yes, we do. Now we can match it. Okay. So when you get messages like that, where you're like, I sent that, but you're getting that same error over and over, be proactive and try to think about, did you have a different name when you were at a different institution? Okay. Basic parts of the transfer application. Of course, there's the application. Most schools in the state of Texas that are state schools use Apply Texas. Private schools may use something else, and it's always on their website. If you want to know how to apply, go to the website, go to the admissions tab. It's going to be outlined for you how to apply with a link to the application. Official transcripts from all colleges that you have attended, including dual credit. So here's the thing with dual credit. Your dual credit is awarded by the college that you attended the dual credit from, not by your high school, not by South Plains. So even though we may accept that credit and have that credit like on your transcript because we're showing that you have English 1301 from Angelo State, we do not award English 1301 credit because we didn't teach you English 1301. Angelo State did. So you cannot use that transcript where we show that we're letting you use that credit. You have to get Angelo State to get you a transcript, okay? We can't award the credit. We didn't teach you the class. Also, because it's dual credit, you need the college transcript because it is a college credit course. So just make sure if you did dual credit, yes, it's on your high school transcript, but it needs to be a college transcript awarding you the college credit. Those are sent directly from one institution to the other, or you can typically mail or hand deliver them, but they need to be in a sealed envelope. Once they're open, they're no longer official. TSI scores. Okay, if you've taken college level courses, a lot of times you don't need the TSI scores. If you've taken English, if you've taken college algebra, college level math. But if you have not taken those classes, realize TSI scores may not be on your college transcripts. You may have to have the TSI score report or the ACT SAT score report sent to your transfer college. Okay, depending on what your situation is with that, just make sure that you have that. ACT SAT scores. It might be beneficial for you to have those scores sent, even though they might not be part of your admissions requirements. If you're doing scholarship applications, sometimes they want to see those scores to give you points. Other items that schools may require vary by institution. Word about the application fee. You have not applied unless you pay the fee. So sometimes students will apply and not pay the fee, but they're like, I've already applied. And no, you haven't. You have to pay the fee. There are waivers for people with financial need. If you get a Pell Grant, you have financial need. Check with your school. Every school does that differently. So just know, if I get a Pell Grant and I can't afford to pay the application fee, I need to call the admissions office and I need to tell them I'm a student with financial need. It's a financial hardship for me to pay the application fee. I get a Pell Grant. Is there a waiver? What's that process? High school transcripts. A lot of times if you have college level credit, you don't have to turn in high school transcripts, but it might benefit you to do so. Example, School of Business at Texas Tech. If you have 2 years of high school foreign language, you don't have to do foreign language at the School of Business. They don't know that if they don't have a high school transcript, so it might be useful. We already talked about ACT and SAT scores. Some schools require letters of recommendation. Some schools require essays. Some schools require resume. Here's a little tip. If it's optional on the admissions application, you might want to go ahead and do it. Sometimes, especially if the scholarship application is immediately after the admissions application on Apply Texas, sometimes these optional things are actually part of the scholarship review process. And I've been on a couple of scholarship review committees, so at different institutions. Sometimes that essay or resume might be something that I'm giving points for on a scholarship review. So if you don't have it because it's optional and you didn't turn it in, I can't give points for it. So, I don't know, might be beneficial to turn that in, okay? Letters of recommendation need to come from, hopefully, if you're a transfer student, people that know you academically at the college level. Faculty members, advisors, people that have taught you, hopefully that have taught you multiple classes. Ideally, not your high school counselor. You've already been in school 1 to 2 years. Maybe your boss, especially if they can talk about work ethic. You know, not your mom and dad, not your aunt and uncle. These need to be professional, academic, preferably, letters of recommendation. Okay. Well, looks like that is the end of our slideshow. Thank you so much for coming today. Again, the main thing, if you need assistance, come see an advisor in advising and testing at any of our campus locations. Also, connect with the institutions that you want to go to. They have lots of really good information for you. Keep those grades up. Always be thinking from the very beginning about what the next step is. Where do you want to go? We want you to be successful here, but we're always assuming that y'all are going to go forward and do more things beyond at South Plains College. If you have any questions or concerns, we would love to see you. Good luck and have a great semester.